So as we know, in last class, we discussed what is friction and what is the types of friction. So basically, we divided this friction into three types. One is what, everybody? One is static friction. Next one is what? Kinetic friction.
Friction.
And the third one is called as rolling friction. Okay. So now let us comes to here. These static friction basically will come into the play when the object is at rest. Am I right, guys? When the object is at rest, means suppose this is the surface. If any object is lying on the surface, then both the surfaces are contacting each other. So wherever they will contact at that place, there is always a intersection. That is what the interlocking of irregularities will take place. That is only cause of what? Everybody. We studied last class. That is the cause of all of you irregularities. That is what we used to call as ridges and as well as depressions. So because of these depressions and as well as irregularities, it will cause to produce the friction. That is the friction we used to call as static friction. Now, if you notice it here, this static friction, it is always, as I said, it is not remains constant. It is what actually everybody? Static friction is variable. Understand?
Variable.
So now, for example, there is a block on the surface. There is a block on the surface. Now I'll ask Mr. Nivedan to push this block. Now he applied 10 newtons, no change, no motion. He applied 20 newtons, no change. If I apply 30 newtons, no change. He apply 40 newtons, no change. 50 newtons, no change. These are all the things we used to call as what friction, everybody? It is static friction. Am I right or wrong? Now, he started apply a force like maximum friction he applied is 50 newtons and he applied just more than this 51 newtons. Then he noticed that the body started sliding over the surface. So means what is the maximum static friction of this body, everybody?
50 Newton. 50
Yes.
Newton.
Maximum static friction of this body is 50 newtons. The maximum static friction means if the body will experience little bit more than this friction, then body will start into motion. So that is the friction, body's tendency to move, ready to move, but it's not motion. Actually, it is not in motion, but there is a tendency to move. Am I right or wrong, everybody? Yes?
Yes.
So tendency to move. So at that time, the static friction is maximum. The maximum static friction only we used to call with another name. What is that name, everybody?
Limiting friction.
Limiting
Called
friction.
as limiting friction. Those who join only today, you might not understand much, but you can definitely. So just try to understand. So limiting friction. So the maximum static friction when the body is ready to move is only called as limiting friction. So that is why we will say static friction is not remains constant. Static friction is always, what is that, everybody? Static friction is always variable. Now, let us see that in last class, I already taught you laws of limiting friction. Anybody having anything doubt in that, you can ask me. Laws of limiting friction. And there is a formula we derived for limiting friction. Only that is very important. What is the limiting friction formula, everybody? F limiting is equals to mu s into
Normal, sir.
yes, mu s into n. So mu s means something. Anybody can tell? Mu s means what? Coefficient of
Static friction.
yeah, coefficient of static friction. So coefficient of static friction. So actually limiting friction is a what friction actually? Anybody can tell? Limiting friction is a what friction? It is the static
The maximum static friction.
maximum static friction. That is what the maximum static friction is to called as limiting friction. So based upon this, we'll solve numericals also. Remember that. So what is the limiting friction formula, everybody? Mu s into n. N means what? All of you. N means theriyuma theriyada?
Normal.
Normal reaction. Normal kadayad mari. Normal reaction. Okay.
Normal reaction.
Normal reaction. That is what limiting friction. So in today's class, we are going to make experimental verification of law of limiting friction. Okay. So please keep reading. Experimental experimental verification of laws of limiting friction. Shall we start now, everyone? Are you all ready? Yes. So this is one of the most important and interesting one. So just you have to find it. So with the help of this experiment, we are going to find a coefficient of static friction. So what is this coefficient of static friction? We used to represent with the word called as what? Mu.
Muse.
Yes,
Muse.
is the subscript. Mu s means coefficient of static friction. Okay. Future one more friction will come. Kinetic friction. Mu coefficient of kinetic friction. That is why you have to be just very carefully. Shall we start, all of you? If you are okay, we can proceed now. So if you observe
Yes.
carefully, so if verification of limiting friction, you should need to take a setup like these things. So what is the setup you have to take it? All of you see, take a plastic box and a wooden box of the same weight. Take a plastic box and wooden box of the same weight. That is the first thing. So the box which I kept here, it may be a plastic box, or we can take it as a what? Everybody, plastic, or we can take it as a what? Wooden box. Both are same dimensions. Understand, Ra? Everybody? Yes? Please respond. Same
Yes,
weight
sir.
also. Weight also you should take same. The weight is also same. Same dimensions and same weight. Now, place each one of them on the table and apply a force by adding weights on the scale. See, all of you observe very carefully. One time I kept a wooden box and I started putting the weight. This pan we used to call something. Anybody can tell? Last class also I told you. All of you?
Beam balance.
Beam balance illa Mari. There is a palm, that name of that one. What is that name called? Anyone?
Pulley. Yes.
That is pulley, I know, Mari. That is a fixed pulley. That plate we used to call something. Yes, anyone?
Scale pan.
What
Scale
you have
pan.
written? Check it. Scale pan. Understanding, Amma? So please remember that. What is a pan? This one is called as. Who said that?
Darshan, sir.
Yeah, that's it. Scale pan. Okay, Mari. So now you can see everybody. So first you take it as a wooden block. I kept what? Everybody? First preference, what is that? Wooden block. So both are having same weight. Am I right or not? Weight of plastic is equals to weight of wooden. So please remember that. Both are same. Now I kept wooden block on the bench and I attached a rope to the scale pan. So this is a fixed pulley. What is this pulley name? Everybody used to call it as? It is the fixed pulley. Now I'm keep on adding the weight on the scale pan. Just that is how to do it. By adding the weights to the scale pan, note down the limiting friction force in each case. So I'm keep on adding the weight. So at a certain time, I can start noticing the movement of this wooden block. Am I right or wrong, everybody? Please respond. All of you. So wherever I notice that if I add some other extra weight, then automatically it will be started into motion. So by that time, whatever the total weight, that weight I should note it down, which is equals to something. What is that, guys? Which is
Limiting
equals to
friction.
limiting friction. It should not move. Do you understand, everybody? It should not move. It just begins to move. That is what we used to call as limiting friction. It's a tendency. It should not move actually, but the static friction moves to maximum. Next, you place it instead of wooden block, you place it what, guys? Plastic block. And again repeat the experiment. Put the weight, put the weight, put the weight in the scale plan. So at a certain point where you are noticing that plastic box is ready to move, tendency to move. If you add a small weight also, it will move after that. So at that time, mention the limiting friction of wooden block and limiting friction of everybody. Limiting friction for what box? Plastic box. So now, what is your expectation? Do you think both will get the same limiting friction? That is what is my question. Anybody?
Sir,
No,
no,
sir.
sir.
All of you? Please respond. So do you think both the plastic box and the wooden block both will experience the same limiting friction? That is what is my, of course their
No,
weight
sir.
is same.
No,
Their
sir.
weight is same. But how you
Sir,
are,
even the weight is same, mass is not, no, sir.
of course, weight is same means mass is remains constant only, Mari. You should not think over mass and weight. You should think about some other thing. Anybody can tell? What is that?
Composition of particles.
No, that is only called as what? Nature of surfaces. Do you all understand, everybody? Of course, their weight is same. But do you think that plastic box and wooden box has same nature of surface? Everybody? Yes, please. Respond.
No, sir.
No. So who is having more rough surface? Plastic or wooden box?
Wooden block.
Wooden box. So if surface is having more rough, then frictional force increases or decreases? Roughness.
Increases.
Increases.
Then automatically frictional force increases or decreases, everybody?
Increases.
Increases. Both are directly proportional to each other. Now that is why, of course, their weight is equal. Weight of the plastic is equals to weight of the wooden. But their nature of the surfaces, is it same or not same? Nature of the surface is
same.
not same. So
Not
that,
same.
understanding? So since different bodies were used in the two cases, we'll get different limiting friction or same limiting friction. Everybody? Yes, please.
Different.
Limiting friction. Do you all understand, everybody? So there would be required to make a box to start sliding over the table. It may be wooden blocks or plastic blocks. So you remember that limiting friction is not same for wooden block as well as plastic bags. Of course, their weight is remains same. So it is indicating that limiting friction is depends on something. What is that, everybody? Limiting friction is
Nature
depends
of
on
the surface.
nature of the surfaces. Please make it, write that point, draw this diagram and write it. Do you all understand this point? This is the point number 1. So from this point, I should make that different surfaces is having different limiting friction, even though their mass is remains constant, because limiting friction does not depend on weight or mass. It will depends on what, everybody? It will depends on
Nature of the surface.
nature of the surfaces. Please mention that very clearly. Any doubt? Anybody can ask me. Understand, Mr. Lingesh?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Shivani, Puriyama, Shivani, Abhirami.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So be very careful, because now see, physics means more than a like what we observation, and imagination is very important. Even full 11th and 12th physics, you will get more maximum imagination only, because we cannot see them like a force. Force is invisible, but we can experience the force. Same thing, you should experience everything, like what, observation and imagination. So that is what is physics only. So first point, are you clear, everybody? So we have to put wooden block one time, plastic block one time, and we just need to put a weights so that calculate the limiting friction. So that's what we have to do it. Now second one, place a book on the table and slide it on the table by adding the weight. So now no wooden box, no plastic box. We have to place it what now? Let me take a physics book. You place it what, guys? Everybody? Physics book on the table and slide it on the table by adding the weights again. Same, repeat the step 2. Weight on the pan. Now note down the maximum force required to just slide the book. That is only called as, what is that called as? Maximum force required. That is only we used to call
Limiting friction.
limiting friction. Understanding? So what is the maximum force required to make the book, physics book, to move or slide over on the surface? Please note down that. And now you tell me, place 2 books, one on above, and again you determine the limiting friction. What is the maximum friction required? 1 physics book over the 2 physics books you put it. Now you tell me, do you need maximum, what is the maximum friction required? What is the maximum limiting friction required to move that objects? Like that, you can notice it, weight of the books always will give something. Weight of the books will give something, or weight of the block will give something. Weight is equals to something. Anybody can tell? Weight always will act downward direction, and opposite something is acting. What is that called as?
Normal reaction.
Normal force.
So always keep in mind that weight of the object will gives you something. What is that?
Normal reaction.
Weight of the reaction will give you what, guys? Weight of the object will give always
Normal reaction.
Normal reaction. Okay. Now, first one book you try to drag on the surface and find the limiting friction. Now put two books over each other and try to find the limiting friction. Next, repeat the experiment by increasing more and more and more and more number of physics books. Now, you can check it, all of you. The weight of the books gives the normal reaction always. Now you tell me, is the limiting friction is remains same or not? That is what is the question. All of you. Yes, please. Respond, Ra.
Sir, as the book increases,
Yes.
the
The weight
limiting friction
increases.
also.
Weight increases. The number of books increases, weight increases. So weight increases means
Yes,
what will
sir.
happen?
So it differs, sir.
It will
Sir.
be. Understand, all of you? So weight increases, even though same books, same surface. If the weight increases, then limiting friction is also what? Everybody. Limiting friction also increases. Understanding? Because, for example, see, I have placed one wooden block on the surface. Now I am trying to drag, I am trying to push it. So that maybe by applying 10 newtons, I can push this. Now I will put one more block over it and one more block over it. Do you think that with the same 10 Newton force, I can make them to push?
No, sir.
No.
No,
So
sir.
what is the
No,
reason?
sir.
Very simple. If I place only one book or one object, the interlocking is very normal. Am I right or wrong, everyone? Yes. If I apply the force, if I
Yes.
apply more weight on it, then interlocking will be more stronger. Am I right or wrong, guys? Everybody? Mr.
Yes,
Nivedan?
sir.
Yes. So if the interlocking is increasing, then what will happen? Frictional force also. Yes, please. Frictional force
Sir.
also increases. That is what.
Increasing.
Everybody clear? Agalya, understand now? So weight of the object increases, then limiting friction is also. Limiting friction is also. Respond.
Increases.
Okay. Then. So this is what is the verification of loss of limiting friction. So in loss of limiting friction, so anybody can tell me what is the formula for limiting friction? F limiting is equals to, everybody, coefficient of limiting friction into normal. Okay. Now normal, I already told you. Normal will be given by what? Fastly, everybody. Normal will be given by. Yes, please. How you get the normal? Respond. Kinara, nobody is saying normal
Weight is
gives you
equals
what?
to normal, sir.
Weight of the
mg.
body. Weight of the body will gives you normal. Always, if I place the object, weight of the body will act in what direction? Downward direction. Normal reaction is right or not? Mg, and normal will act in upward direction. So n is equals to what? N is equals to what, guys?
mg.
Mg. Mass into acceleration due to gravity. Then, sir, how to find the coefficient of limiting friction? That is the thing. So remember, it is found that the limiting friction, the coefficient of limiting friction is always remains constant. For example, see, if I put weight is equal to one book, one physics book. How many physics books, everybody? One physics book. Weight is equals to, let me take for example, 100 newtons. Then the limiting friction, I got it, which is equals to, for example, 50 newtons. How many newtons? How many newtons? Limit 50 newtons. Okay. So let me find the ratio. Limiting friction divided by normal reaction. So what is the answer? Anybody can tell me? Limiting friction divided by normal reaction. How much it is? 50 divided by 100.
By 2.
To 0.5. Am I right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, all of you observe, if I increase the weight into double, two books it will become. Means rand book. One physics book. Here, how many physics books? Everybody. Two physics books. Understanding? So two physics means then weight will become what? Double. 2 times of 100. Understanding? 100 Newton, 200 newtons. Then limiting friction also will increase as what? 100 newtons. Understanding? Now you do the ratio. F limiting divided by normal reaction. So what is the answer? 100 divided by 200, which is equals to what? 1 by 2. Means again, how much is the answer? What is the answer? 0.5. So that is what you should remember. So the ratio is always remains constant. Understand, Agalya? Yes, please. It is found that experimentally found that the ratio of what? ratio is remains constant. That ratio only will gives you coefficient of limiting friction. What is that? Limiting friction divided by, what is that, guys? Normal reaction gives you one constant. That constant only called as what? Coefficient of, Asli, coefficient of what? Coefficient of what, Ra?
Sir, can you please say it again, sir?
Coefficient of limiting friction. Okay, Mari. Nothing, Mari. One physics book I am dragging, I am getting some limiting friction. Two physics books I am dragging, I am getting some limiting friction. Three physics books I am dragging, I am getting some limiting friction. So everywhere, if weight increases, normal reaction also increases. Am I right or wrong? Understand, Mari?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So that is what, if I find the ratio of F limiting divided by normal reaction, always I will get remains constant. That constant only called as coefficient of static friction. Okay, Mari? Purima? Understand,
Sir,
Kishore? Yes?
Sir, the value that we get from the limiting friction is known as
Limiting friction
constant.
ratio of limiting friction and normal reaction is only called as coefficient of friction, static friction. Okay?
Yes, sir.
That is what. That is always remains constant. If you drag with one
But
physics,
then mass is equals to the weight is equals to normal reaction, no, sir.
yes,
So
that
that
is
we
what
can.
I'm saying. This is not Newton Amma. This is normal reaction. Everybody clear? Shivani, Sangamitrai. So always weight is equals to normal reaction. We already studied in previous classes normal reaction. Always normal reaction will act the opposite to the perpendicularly opposite to the weight. Am I right or wrong? We studied or not? Everybody. Yes?
Yes,
sir.
That is what. So weight is equals to normal reaction. That is what the first thing. If I do the ratio of limiting friction, F limiting divided by normal reaction, always I will get some remains. The constant is remaining same. That will depend on the surfaces. Do you all understand, everybody? So everybody, limiting friction will be decided by what? Limiting friction is always decided by what? Nature of surfaces. Okay, but if a given surface, given weight, if I find the ratio of limiting friction divided by weight, always I'll get remains constant. That constant only is to called as coefficient of limiting friction. Okay, Nivedan? Any doubt, Nivedan?
No, sir.
Yes, that is what. And also remember, limiting friction is directly proportional to the normal reaction. Means in the sense of greater the normal reaction, greater will be the friction. Is it right or wrong? Yes, please. I'll put now 100 newtons weight. 100 newtons weight. Then normal reaction. Well, let me take normal reaction is also 100 newtons. Is it right or wrong, everybody? Yes. Then limiting friction, for example, 20 newtons, I'll get it. If weight becomes 10 times, then limiting friction also increases 10 times. Is it right or wrong? Lingesh? Both are directly proportional. F limiting is directly proportional to normal. If limiting normal is increasing, limiting friction is also increases. Normal is decreasing, limiting friction is also decreasing. Okay, guys? All of you? You say only correct, I will understand. What is the simply you people are saying?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt you can ask me. Once again, I'll repeat, you see that? We all knows that if any kind of object is placed on the ground, so the weight of the object is always downward direction. What is the weight formula? Weight is equals to, we studied, mass into acceleration due to gravity. Now perpendicularly something is acting. If weight is acting downwards, there is a perpendicular force which is acting normal. That is what? N is equals to mg. We all people knows. Now, if I place one physics book, for example, imagine I'll get the normal reaction is equals to 100 newtons. What is the normal reaction? 100 newtons. Are you clear, everybody? Yes. Then by that time, if I apply the force, I'll get F limiting, which is equals to, for example, I'm saying 50 newtons. What is the limiting friction? Everybody? 50 newtons. Now I will do the ratio. I'll do the ratio. F limiting divided by N, which is equals to F limiting is 50 divided by This is 100.
100.
So that I'll get one constant. That constant is how
1 by 2.
1 by 2. So that is what I'm saying, that coefficient of limiting friction. Now I will put two physics books. So two physics means one physics books 100 newtons, then two physics books will become what? Double. Am I right or wrong?
200.
So weight is equals to 2 times of mg, two physics books, which is equals to 2 into 100 newtons. So 200 newtons. Then what is
200
normal? What is the normal, everybody? Normal is equals to
100
newtons. Then F limiting, the applying limiting friction increases or decreases? Definitely it will increases. Understanding? So as the weight increases, limiting friction is also increases. Okay. Now which is equals to 100 newtons, for example. So if I do the ratio again, F limiting divided by normal. So normal is equals to 200 Newton. So which is equals to how much, guys? N means normal reaction. Please remember that. So 100 divided by 200. Again, what is the answer? All of you?
1 by 2.
1 by 2 only. So that is what it is,
1 by 2.
remains constant. That constant only called as coefficient of limiting friction. Everybody clear? Or static friction? Understand now at least? Everybody, Kavya, Kishore, that is what. So I am saying that all of you
FL by, so we can take it as FL by and the normal reaction, or limiting friction by sir, what is
Weight.
the name of the
Weight. You are saying weight. Am I right, Mari?
Yes, sir, we can
Yeah.
keep it as both.
But
no, sir.
basically, remember, we are not considering as a weight. Weight is equals to normal. So you have to use always normal only. Understand?
Yes, sir. So we
Yeah.
no need to use the term weight, no, sir.
Weight we should not use. But you remember, weight is directly proportional to normal. Weight increases.
So we can find the normal reaction by
Yes,
equalizing the weight.
Yeah, weight. Because always normal is equals to weight, correct, Mari? Already we have
Yes,
studied
sir.
last class normal. So weight increases, normal reaction also increases. Weight decreases, normal reaction also decreases. Clear?
Yeah.
Now, normal reaction is directly proportional to F limiting. Means normal reaction increases, F limiting is also increases. Normal reaction decreases, F limiting is also decreases. Clear? Agalya, Purima, Agalya, clearly?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is what. So this is what about verification of limiting friction, law of limiting friction. So now both you can find it. So see that N by L is equals to constant. So what is the formula for F limiting? That is what, everybody? So F limiting is equals to formula. So what is that? All of you. FL divided by weight, that is what, normal reaction, into what? Normal reaction. Okay. So this FL by N only will get some coefficient. What is the coefficient? Limiting friction. Coefficient of limiting friction into normal will gives us always what? F limiting. Is it okay, guys? Everybody? Yes, that is what. So how to find?
So in the previous example, the MS is 1 by 2, no, sir?
Yeah,
is it
1 by 2.
If
If you take this physics book example, I am taking values. I am not, it is not specified values. I am just for your understanding, I am taking the values. So in this example, what is the mu s value, everybody? In this example, what is the mu s value? 1 by 2. Understanding, everybody? Clear? So you can
the
find
next
it, for
step
example.
we need
Yeah,
to
for
multiply
example,
it with
I will give you,
normal
Mari. I will give you. In exam, they will give you. Even 11th class physics also, they will give you. The coefficient constant it is. So they will already mention in the question itself. Suppose I will mention limiting, the coefficient of limiting friction is 1 by 2. Then find the F limiting. So F limiting is equals to coefficient of static friction into normal. So normal, for example, 200 newtons. Then limiting friction is, coefficient is 1 by 2. Normal is 200 newtons. Then F limiting is how much? Find it. F limiting is equals to 2 ones are 200s are. So what is F limiting, everybody?
100.
100 newtons. That's all. Do you understand? We got the same answer or not? Verified? Like that, we have to
Yes, sir.
solve the numericals. Clear? Any doubt? Anybody can ask. Understand, guys? Yes. So this is very important. Conclusion. Weight is directly proportional to normal reaction. Always weight gives what, guys? Weight gives you the normal reaction. And normal reaction directly proportional to the limiting friction. Okay, guys? So greater the normal reaction, higher will be the friction. Please remember that. Greater the normal reaction, higher will be the Higher will be the what? Higher will be limiting friction.
Limiting friction.
That is it. Okay, Gokul Raj, understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is what about limiting friction and static friction.
So one doubt, sir.
Yes, ask.
This formula is to find limiting friction, no, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir. But actually, when we are finding MS, we are using the formula
MS or
FL
mu
by
S na? Mu S.
US, sir.
That is what
That
exam.
equals to-
That is what, Mari. The examiner or question paper preparation. I already know that. I already know the coefficient of friction. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
And I will ask you to calculate the limiting friction. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That is what. Okay. They will give you the
Yes, sir.
constant, the coefficient of static friction. They already will give you in the question. Your duty is to find either normal reaction or static friction. That's all. Limiting friction.
Yes, sir. Then
Understood?
here the coefficient is 1/2.
Yeah, in this example, it may be varies. I will take
Yes,
0.1, I will take 0.5, I will take 0.2. That will varies upon the limiting friction. See, coefficient of limiting friction is depends on the nature of the surfaces. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Surfaces will decide what is that coefficient, but that is always remains constant. That is what is saying. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is okay. Everybody, clear? Everyone, understand or not? Anybody having doubt, you can ask me. Sanjay, Kishore, Hasinis. Any doubt? Both Hasinis. Princey. Okay. So this is the first type of friction. Next, the second type of friction. So what is the second type of friction? We all people knows. Everyone, sliding friction. Okay. So please write it. Sliding friction also we can call it as dynamic friction. Also we can call it as what is it
Kinetic
called?
friction.
Kinetic friction. See one.
So one doubt, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you please go to the previous one, that image?
Yeah. Any other having doubt, please let me know. Yes.
On the top, you have taken as weight is equal to 2 times as mg, sir. Why you have taken that, sir?
Which one, Ra? Because I put two books, Ra. Before only one book, Mari. One book is equals to
Yes,
weight. Now this is two books.
Yes, sir.
Two books
If we
means
want to find the value of one book, means we can multiply it with 100, no, sir. 1/2 into 100.
that's what, Mari. You can do it. I am taking a mass increases. See, first we have dragged wooden block and plastic block over. We have found that different limiting friction is different because different surfaces. Now same surface, book and bench only contacting, but book, one book, two books, three books, four books, five books, like that. Weight of the books is keep on increasing. Then also we can see, even though same surfaces, the limiting friction is keep on changes because it is depends on weight of the object. That is what is saying. Clear?
Sir.
Any doubt?
No, sir.
Yeah. Lingesh, Purima Lingesh, Nivedan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the
Yes,
next
sir.
and the second type of friction is what? Everybody? Sliding friction,
Sliding
or we
friction.
can say dynamic friction or kinetic friction. Now, sliding means in the sense of what? Body is in motion or body is in state of rest?
Motion.
Motion.
So that is what. So keep it in mind, when a body slides over a surface, suppose if this is the surface, the body is sliding over the surface, means it's already in motion. Okay. So one surface is moving over the another surface. Somebody is saying, sir. Okay, man, no issues. Okay, Brahmi, no problem. So already in motion. So when a body slides over a surface, let me take some body. This is the body A, for example. This body is already sliding over the surface. This is the surface. See, surface always will represent with this. Then the friction developed between the sliding body and the surface on which it is sliding is known as sliding friction or kinetic friction or dynamic friction. So you remember that the kinetic friction of a body is basically when the body is sliding. Keep it in mind, when the body is sliding, then there is a friction developed between the surfaces. By that time also it will acting in what direction? Opposite direction to opposite direction to motion. Understanding, Amma? So if the body is sliding over in this direction, then the frictional force is developed between the surfaces. That frictional force only we used to called as kinetic friction, or we can call it as what friction? Everyone? FK. FK means kinetic friction. Also we can call it as what? Sliding friction. Okay. So now this sliding friction, again same thing. It will be directly proportional to the normal reaction. So this kinetic friction is also directly proportional to what, everybody?
Normal reaction.
Normal reaction, and it will does not depend on velocity which the body is moving. It is independent on the velocity. So that is why you tell me kinetic friction is always remains constant or varies. Static friction varies. Kinetic friction remains constant or varies. Independent on velocity. So if you go 100, suppose you are riding a car on a, for example, you are in front of your home. One day you travel with a 20 km/h. Same road you travel with a 50 km/h. Same road you travel with a 100 km/h. So every time the kinetic friction is remains what? Everybody. Kinetic friction is remains constant. It will not depend on velocity of the body. Understand, everybody? All of
Sir,
you?
yes, sir. But yes, sir, in static friction also it's constant only, no, sir. Because
No,
it is
static
also...
friction varies, Mari. Static friction, what I said, maximum
Yes, sir.
static
Yes,
friction,
sir.
only limiting friction. Till that, static friction is varies. It may be 1 or 2
Yes,
or
sir.
3 Newton, 4 Newton, 5 Newton, 100 Newton, we don't know. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Anything possessed by anything is called as static friction. But coming to the sliding friction or kinetic friction, throughout the journey, it is remains constant. Understand, Mari?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is what. So it is independent on what, guys? Independent on the velocity. It does not depend. You can write it. Does not depend. Pranav is not there in meeting. Am I right? Is
Yes,
he
sir.
there? Yeah. Okay. So does not depend on the speed of the body or velocity of the body. So always it will depends on only normal reaction. So please remember that. So I can say FK, F limiting is directly proportional to normal reaction. Right or wrong, guys? All of you? Yes. So now we know mathematics.